Nora Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nora Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Welcome to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast, and I am your host, Nora Muhammad. I am so glad to be with you in another episode of the podcast. I am just, I'm grateful. This is I guess this would be the third year starting this podcast. And it has been a wonderful project, and it is a project of love, or a labor of love, as some people call it. But this is definitely a project of love, and it's a service that I believe I am obligated to provide for my community. I think that I know I have been abundantly blessed, and because I have been favored and I have been so blessed, and I believe that I have the responsibility to share so much of what I have learned along this journey of life with my community. I believe that I must be a part of the solution. I can't remain neutral in the face of the serious needs that our community has. And I thought that this podcast would could certainly be a way to provide a service to my community. I ask for nothing except support in the way of sharing a review, leaving a rating, and sharing this with your friends and your family, sharing it with those of our community who you believe could benefit from what is shared over the microphone in this podcast. But there's very little that I require or ask or seek from listeners. I have been just given so much in this life, and the life that I have, I know, is certainly a fortunate one. That's not to say I have not had my share of hardships or mistakes or errors along the way. I certainly have had mine. I too am human. I am far from perfect. But I've had supports along the way in this life. I've had wonderful mentors. I have the support of an amazing, amazing family. And friends. And so why not share what I think or I know could benefit others? Why keep it to myself? I do not want to be the only one, the only one to not just make it through, but thrive. I don't want to be the only one. I don't want my circle of friends to be the only ones. I think that all of us are entitled to success and good living. And so I use this podcast to share how I believe that we can navigate, some of the landmines that this world, this society has waiting for us, especially with our young people. I think it's so important that we just avail on them all of the knowledge and wisdom and understanding that we've gained in our journey, so that we can save them time from making many of the mistakes that we've made, making many of the missteps that we've made. I believe that we are responsible to them, to save them the time, the aggravation of starting over to get it right, because they lacked knowledge, because they lacked resources, because they lacked just the know-how, the ability to maneuver. And, I think of life in a way of, kind of having the cheat codes, or the hacks, if you will, kind of knowing how to, maneuver and navigate so that we can have as peaceful a journey as possible. I think that when we lack knowledge, when we lack understanding, when we don't have guidance, then I think that we can live in a very, very chaotic way, because we can make mistake after mistake. We can run into one dead end after the next because we just don't have guidance. And so I would like to share with you that which has been shared with me. And so I'm thankful to you for returning week after week and enjoying the podcast and sharing the podcast, those who've shared it. And if you haven't, and you believe the content that you receive here is valuable to you and could be valuable to those who you care about, I do encourage you to share it with them, and share it on your social media, share it in an email. But do please share this so that, others can benefit from what is shared, across the microphone on this podcast. And so, today I was thinking about, just some of the unfortunate character traits that we come across in our day-to-day lives. And I was thinking about how we have to beware of unhappy people, and to recognize them, and I like to think of them as the bad news Barry and the the whispering Wilma. For those of you who listen to this podcast, you are more than likely someone who is striving to be progressive, striving to advance yourself, advance your community. You just want to be successful, whatever that is to you. You are willing to accept challenges. And so along such a journey, for someone who is striving to be progressive, then along the way of your journey, you are going to encounter a bad news Barry and a whispering Wilma. These are individuals who are just in general unhappy. These are people who are dissatisfied and disappointed, and perhaps they have not achieved or attained what they've wanted out of life. Maybe they didn't want much out of life, but they didn't want you to have it either, And so it's so important that we recognize people around us who share these traits, and we know how to maneuver around them. So I'm going to share some characteristics of these kinds of people. You're someone who is looking to be promoted within your organization or your company, and you have the opportunity to sit for an interview, and you mention it to a coworker, and your coworker who you mentions it to automatically, just like reflexively almost, tells you that there's nepotism and the boss's son, the boss's daughter is going to get that job, or that, they're not looking for somebody like you. When you're looking to advance yourself in your career and you're eager to sit for the interview, you have that person. Let's call that person Gloomy Glenn. You have Gloomy Glenn that's sitting in the cubicle next to you, that's telling you all of the reasons why you should damper your enthusiasm to take this opportunity to progress to the next level. You see, Gloomy Glenn is not trying to move beyond his station in life. Gloomy Glenn is not exactly thrilled to be in his station or to be in that cubicle next to you. But Gloomy Glenn is used to you being there next to him. And Gloomy Glenn has not necessarily put himself or position himself in a way to achieve or to advance as you are. And so Gloomy Glenn likes to have lunch with you and share some unfortunate, real or imagined, some unfortunate news about the company, about the boss, about your manager, about your supervisor, and what others are saying about you. So it's important that we recognize that person's intentions, overt or covert, and we distance our ambitions from people like Gloomy Glenn, who don't have a plan for their lives or his life and doesn't necessarily support you in your plan for your life. So definitely be on the lookout for Gloomy Glenn. So let's talk about Gossip Gloria. You know, many of us know a gossiping Gloria. You know, you may have been a gossiping Gloria. I hope not. But if you are a gossip Gloria, then I hope that after listening to this, you will put down that unfortunate trait of gossip. So what we know about gossip is it's someone that's carrying information, true or false, about another person, and they're carrying that to a third party. And usually the news that gossiping Gloria is carrying is not positive. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be true, but most of the time it's not positive. You know, gossiping Gloria is not running into the break room to tell you about how Maria found the man of her dreams and is now engaged, right? Gossiping Gloria is not calling you on the cell phone and telling you about the new house, the new big, beautiful house that Harry just purchased. Gossiping Gloria is telling you about the affair that Harry is having behind his wife's back. Gossiping Gloria is telling you about the insufficiency of the diamond in Maria's engagement ring. Gossiping Gloria is bringing you negative news about another person. And so you have to ask yourself, what is it about me that Gossiping Gloria is finding attraction to? Why is she coming to me with this news? What is it about me? Because this is news that, as I said, is typically bad. What is it about me that leads Gossiping Gloria to think that I appeal to, or bad news appeals to me? And what is Gossiping Gloria's intention? Is she celebrating Maria, or is she trying to cut Maria down? Is she celebrating Harry, or is she trying to cut Harry down? And then in your absence, what is Gossiping Gloria saying about you? Is she talking about how progressive you are, how beautiful you are, how wonderful your children are doing in school? You see, someone like Gossiping Gloria, if she will gossip to you, more than likely she will gossip about you. And, you know, someone who takes joy or revels in the unfortunate circumstances of another person, that's just a bad characteristic. That's a terrible character trait that anyone would find pleasure in what could potentially be an unfortunate event, and then be so eager to share that with others. You know, if something bad happens, you know, and you're telling your girlfriend or you're telling your brother about something bad that's happened, you're kind of saying it quietly because, you know, you don't want it to get out, and it could be personal or private. But, you know, nobody is eager to share their own bad news. What is it about a person that wants to open up someone else's bad news into a public space like that? We have to monitor our perimeter for Gossiping Gloria and Gloomy Glenn. So let's say you're thinking about starting a new business, and you have your business plan, you have your investors, you may have a location that you think this business will be great to go in, and you're just eager and excited. And you tell your good friend, or who you think, you know, is your good friend, let's call her Negative Nancy. And Negative Nancy begins to list all of the people that she knew, that her mama knew, that her auntie knew, that her uncle knew, who started a business possibly on the same block that you went to start your business. And Negative Nancy shares with you all of the hardships, shares with you all of the failures that others have who wanted to start their own business, start a new business. And so as you are coming to Negative Nancy to share this news, Negative Nancy is taking an extinguisher, an extinguisher to your dreams and dousing you, because Negative Nancy has a negative disposition. And so you're coming with your excitement and your eagerness and your joy, and Negative Nancy isn't here for it. You know, it's so important that we yoke ourselves with individuals who share the same mindset as us, because if we yoke ourselves with people who are not progressive, people who don't like helping others, people who don't cheer when other people win, people who don't, shadow somebody else's bad news instead of highlighting it, and putting it out in the open like Gossip and Gloria. We have to protect ourselves from people like that, because, if you're around someone long enough, either you're going to rub off on them or they're going to rub off on you. And one thing I will say, Gloomy Glenn, Negative Nancy, Gossiping Gloria, Bad News Barry, and Whispering Wilma are tethered to their bad attitudes. They are invested in their bad attitudes. Misery loves company, and it is so hard to get rid of that habit of gossip, or get rid of that habit of like Bad News Barry always bringing some disconcerting news. And so you have to decide, or if you can influence them to your way of thinking, that's great. But if you don't influence them to your way of thinking, what do? Do you continue to bring your progressive ideas? Do you continue to bring your achievements or your potentials or the challenges that you want to face? Do you continue to bring these ideas to these kinds of people? I would suggest that you don't. There have been times in my life where I was working really hard to achieve goals, and I would share those goals with a very, very select group of people. Now, I do believe that what is for me, and that nobody can interrupt what the universe intends that I receive. But I also recognize that people carry energy. And so there have been times as I have been striving to achieve major goals in my life, that I would only share that news with a very, very select group of people, because I didn't even want somebody's negative thoughts in the atmosphere surrounding an idea or a plan or an opportunity that I had. Not that, the people would necessarily say something to me, would be like a Negative Nancy to me and say, well, are you sure you're able to do that? Not that they would say that to me. I think that my disposition may have like a force field, or I think I have a shield around me where people don't necessarily bring me bad news or bring me gossip. But even still, I did not want their negative attitudes in the atmosphere and that energy circulating in regarding any idea or any plans that I had for myself. I may tell them after the fact, but I'm definitely not telling them while I have something in the oven, so to speak. Because in one way, I feel as if they are not worthy, to know what it is that I'm planning. They're not someone who's going to inspire me or someone who's going to help me gain resources or access. And so if they're not someone who can positively impact my ideas or my goals or my mindset towards achieving these goals, then I don't think that they're necessarily deserving to be on the inside, to know what's going on. I will wait until I've won, until victory is won, and then, maybe share it afterwards. But I certainly try my best to protect myself and protect those who I care about. And, it's just so important. And the thing is, these people who have these negative attitudes, these bad character traits, they don't always know that they have negative character traits. I mean, sometimes, it's intentional. I've known people that when they come in the room becomes confused immediately when they come in the room. It's almost like the light dims. It's like the positive energy is just siphoned out. And whenever they come around, there's going to be chaos. There's going to be confusion. And some of this is intentional. And I've known people who start confusion on purpose. But I also know that some people just don't know that they carry these traits with them. They think that they're being helpful. I'm just trying to let you know that, the last person that tried that idea failed. So I'm just trying to help you so you don't waste your time and your money, So sometimes people think that they're trying to be helpful. And this could be a mother, a father, a cousin, a friend, a teacher, a supervisor, a colleague. It could be someone who is thinking that they're helping you by sharing what is in general bad news or bad guidance or, uninspired thinking with you. They think that they're helping you. They think that they're trying to protect you from failure. And so you have to know that although they love me, what they're saying is not loving. And so you have to decide then that you don't share or, you don't take advice from people like that. When I'm conferencing and counseling young women who have certain goals, for example, I say, look, if you are trying to earn $25 an hour, you don't talk to somebody who's not earning $10 an hour, right? If you want to earn $25 an hour, then you talk to somebody who's earning $25 an hour or more. You don't go to the person that's earning $8 an hour because they can't help you get where you want to be. And they may not want you to get where you want to be. And so there are people around us who are threatened by our success, who are comfortable with their station in life, and that's fine for them. But sometimes they're uncomfortable with your progressive ideas. They're uncomfortable with you trying to achieve beyond where you have started or where you are. And so protect yourself and protect the idea that's baking in the oven so that you don't put it out there to the wrong person, and then that person begins working on you. And I'll tell you, people who have bad character and these kind of negative character traits, they run in packs. And, the saying misery loves company is so true. And you'll find they'll have a whole coalition working on you. And before you know it, you're suddenly unambitious. Your battery is drained. You're tired. You're sitting home watching Netflix and chill instead of, on YouTube and Google trying to research what you need to know and do to achieve your particular dream. You have to be careful. Protect your dreams. Watch out for problem people. Watch out for unhappy people. Unhappy people don't like seeing happy people. And we have to know this. And if we can't sway them into our way of thinking, I would say don't take too much time with them. Go and find the crowd that is right for you. Go and find those happy people, those ambitious people, those inspired people. You go find your crowd that's going to help you get where you want to get and achieve your dreams. So I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. It is always a privilege, and it's so special to be with you week after week. And I hope to speak with you again next week. And until then, stay in peace. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, norahmuhammad.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@neurospeaks.com. You can also follow the NeuraSpeaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at NeuraSpeaks Podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.